It's Thursday. How y'all doing? I'm waiting for the algorithm to tell y'all we're ready so that you can hop over and hang out with us. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning, depending on where you are. It is a gloomy one here in Chicago, so I hope the sun is shining where you are. Hey, Kristen. I can't even tell y'all how excited I am today. I'm a little geeked, but I'm keeping it calm. I'm keeping it calm. This is going to be so much fun and so important. Let's see. I'm waiting for Chiquita to join us. Hey, Camille. Happy Thursday. Hey, I'm in Chicago too. Hi, Linda. Yeah, I'm super duper excited. Like super duper excited. Let's see. I see her. Let's see if I can add her. Let's see. I hope y'all got notepads because this is about to go down.
Hey, Regina.
Hey, I hear you. I don't see you.
I can see you.
You can see me? Okay.
You can't see me?
I can't see you, but maybe everybody else can. It might just be me. Can you guys see? Let me make sure.
To see if I need to jump out and come back in.
Let's see if somebody will tell us if they can see you, then I'll know if it's me
Okay.
or not. They can't see you either, no?
All right. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna jump out and try to come back in.
Okay. All right, let's try it again. It's because the algorithm knew it was about to go down in here. They don't want the smoke. But I just sent the re-invite. Let's see. Okay, I think she's joining now. Listen, not today. What that is that gives you more time to go message your friend or your sister or your cousin or whoever them that you feel like should be on this live with us today. You go and send them that message while we have this couple of minutes of our technical. That gives you, that was on purpose. That was on purpose. Let's see. It says unable to join. Wonder why. Let's see. Sent it again. Yeah, we're not playing with this algorithm. If we got to go out and come back, there she go.
Woo! Good morning. Well, afternoon, morning, depends
Hey,
on what
gorgeous.
part of the country you're in. Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
good. I wish I was as good as this red lip you got going. Hello. Come on,
It's
red
just
lip.
smoke and mirrors.
Girl, isn't it all? Isn't it all? It's a beautiful day to be a Black woman. Um,
Always. I'm doing Black History Month of that.
right. Well, first, thank you everybody for joining us. I see more people coming in. While we're letting people come in, I'll introduce myself for those who may not know me. My name is Regina Townsend. I am the founder of the Broken Brown Egg, and I am also a Cade family. My family received a grant, and we are now the parents of our boss, Judah. And so it is my honor and privilege to support my Cade family by moderating the Coffee with Cade chats. And today is one for the book. So, like I said, if you didn't message somebody, tag somebody, go call somebody, well, don't call them, text them. Today, we're going to be talking about making fertility fair, the social and reproductive justice of it all, with the amazing Chiquita Lockley, creator of the Eggs Over Easy documentary and an amazing friend and advocate in this community, whom I love and adore. And I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation today. So, welcome, Chiquita.
Thank you, Regina, and thanks to the K Foundation for even having this platform, so that we can, have these conversations that are sometimes tough conversations. And I always say, when I started working on the film a lifetime ago, there were two Black women in this space. One was Fertility for Color Girls, Reverend Stacy, and then the other was K Foundation, Dr. Hammond. So I am glad anytime I can jump on with them, I'm here for it.
Yeah, listen, when they call, I tell people they're like at the top for me. When they call,
Yeah.
it's my answer is yes before they even finish with the request, just off GP.
Same.
So I totally agree with you there. But for those who aren't familiar with you, can you just give them a brief intro of who you are and what you've been to this community? And we'll get into it some more, but just a quick intro.
Okay. So I am a filmmaker now, but prior to this documentary, I produce content, usually as a producer, not as a director. So I've been working in faith-based for like 20 something years, and that's all that I was doing until the documentary came up, and so now I'm a filmmaker.
A heck of a filmmaker.
Director by default.
A heck of a filmmaker. Sis, when I tell you that the conversations that I walk into about that film, if you haven't watched Eggs Over Easy, it's available on Ask Somebody for Their Password if you got to, because you need to watch it.
Yes.
And watch it intergenerationally. Watch it in the room with your elders or your youngsters, because you'd be surprised at the conversations that come about from it. I know I sat here and I watched it with my aunt, and the side chats that we were having were just mind-blowing. And so I thank you for listening to your assignment and following it, and providing a space for these people to give their voice and be heard and seen on such an important platform. So how did you get into this? Like, how did you decide, you know what, this is something that we need to talk about?
I was angry and enraged, and I needed to put that energy somewhere productive. So I went in for my regular gynecological exam. I think I was like 41, or I was either 41 or about to be 41. But my doctor, who is a brilliant Black woman, looked at my chart and says, "Hey, Ms. Lockley, you have a birthday coming up. Your eggs are turning 41," or whatever age I was. "Do you know what you want to do with them?" So once she said that, I like, no, I don't know what I want to do with them. What are you even talking about? And she kept talking, because she really is a thorough physician. I don't know what else she said, because I just defaulted to, like, I plan my life. I'm a type A personality. I plan my life. So I knew, like, where I was going on vacation. I knew where I was going to brunch on Sunday. I knew my next gigs, because I work in production. I had no idea. I'm not married, so I just assumed if I ever had kids, it would come with a husband, and I wasn't married. So this had not been on my list since I was like early 30s. And when I say not on my list, not on my list. I was traveling the world and living my best life. So when she asked me this, I started researching, like, what is she talking about? And so everywhere I would go from that moment on, for maybe like a 6-month window, somebody and we never talked about this before in my friendship circles, but somebody would mention something. So I was at a brunch not too long after my doctor's appointment, and a close friend of 20 something years, tells me she and her husband had miscarried with international donor eggs. So in the moment, you sit there, I'm sitting there present for my friend, but I didn't know what she was talking about. Donor egg. I knew about sperm donations, but these are not words or terms that I was they were nowhere in my mind. I had never ever thought about these things. So I started researching, well, what's a donor egg? And it's international, like where did it come from and how much did it cost? And once I looked around the table at this particular brunch, I realized everybody there except like two, and there were probably 10 of us. So everybody there except two had some sort of issue with their reproductive organs, or just the situation of trying to conceive, whether it was fibroids or endo or PCOS. And I only knew those things because, well, one of my friends, I had driven her to her doctor's her surgery for her feminine procedure, which I later found out was an open myomectomy. This is not a feminine procedure.
Yeah,
Why do
no.
we even call it this? This is a C-section where they cut your entire, the
Yeah.
lower half of your body
This is
open
a full
and pull out.
surgery. Full lower
Thank
abdominal
you.
surgery.
So
Yes.
why do we make it so cute? Like, not her, but we.
Yeah.
Why do we say a feminine procedure? So I just started researching, and I said, well, I have a lot of friends. I went to Spelman, it's just an all women's college, the number one HBCU in the country. If we're not talking about it, and we're like all women, so the percentage of women in my life is high because I went to a women's college. And I'm in the sorority. I'm a Delta. And then the rest of my friends, many of them are also Greek. So if we're not talking about it, who's talking about it? So I was just going to do a short, like a 10 to 15 minute short film. I could pay for it myself. It'll be roughly 15, maybe 10 to 15,000, but I could figure out how to make that happen. And just do it so that the girls I mentor and my other friends who don't have the time to dig through all the research at the CDC's website, they would just have something to say, hey, ask your doctor about this, because I didn't know what an AMH was. But once I started digging around after my doctor said, do you know what you want to do with your eggs? I'm like, oh, well, what's the first step if I want to see if I have any eggs? What is menopause? Am I close to it? Because I was early 40s then. So I was going to do this short film. I started interviewing friends, and one will say, oh, you remember this girl? You remember this AKA?
Yeah.
You remember this person who went to Clark? And so you remember my cousin. So I ended up with so much footage that it was a feature film.
Yep. And the
I
crazy
could have
thing,
kept going. Yes.
that part. And the crazy thing is that somebody who doesn't know the Black community would hear that and think that's an isolated experience, with isolated circumstances. But it is so similar when you've been in this community and you understand we don't talk about these issues until we're talking about these issues. And at that point, the floodgates start opening and you're like, oh, wait. Oh, so that's what she went to the hospital? Oh, that's why. Wait, I thought you went out of town for, wait a minute. Really? Oh. And then you start finding out your family history. And then you start finding out, oh, that's not, oh, I didn't know. Wait. And then it becomes, for me, and I'm hearing it in your voice also, infuriating. Because then
Understatement. That's an
why
understatement.
did nobody tell me this? Because as you mentioned, the things that you just mentioned, and we just gonna go in because it's Black History Month, and Camille knew what she was doing when she put both of us on here. The things that you just mentioned are some of the very top tier things that young Black girls are told to do. Go to college, and not just any college. For those who are unaware, Spelman is the number one all Black woman HBCU, historically Black college and university in the country.
Yes, shout out to Spelman.
I have my acceptance letter, but I didn't go, so I'm like, y'all
Oh,
could.
Regina, we could have been friends in school. Look at you.
I know. I hold it dear, but On top of that, go to college. And then the other high echelon thing in the Black community is sorority life.
Yes.
And we don't just have collegiate sorority life. And this is something that I have to explain to a lot of people when I'm talking to colleagues who are not
Hmm.
Black, and they're like, oh,
Hmm.
I pledged a sorority in college.
It's not the
Our
same.
organizations are lifelong
Lifetime
organizations.
commitments,
It's
okay?
a lifetime commitment. So, because we believe service doesn't end at college, and neither does our community need. And the thing about these organizations is that they were founded to support Black people on predominantly white campuses or in predominantly white communities where historically Black colleges are present. So they're all about supporting the Black community. And all of the things that you listed, endo, fibroids, PCOS, are all things that directly impact the Black community. And so here you are at an HBCU in one of the largest, if not, Delta might be the largest Black
Sorority.
sorority.
Yes.
Um, and nobody had talked about this.
Correct. From a family of women,
Yes,
like
it's
nobody.
insane. It's absolutely and when I look at it from that way, I know I started to look at it as, oh, this is by design. This is by design that we're not talking about this. So how did you realize, oh, okay, we're going all the way in, especially when you started working on the film and hearing these stories? Because it will make you furious. So how did you feel
Yeah.
when you really were like in the thick of it?
So the more I worked on it, I just kind of like buried myself in research. And the more I researched, like my anger at just finding this stuff out at 40 something kind of dissipated, but it was this slow burning rage for
Mm-hmm.
all the things that I was finding out. And I was trying to like just be productive. But so my mom and all her sisters had fibroids. They've all had a hysterectomy of some sort, like a partial or a full or whatever. So in my family, I'm aware of fibroids. I knew I would probably have them, which I did end up having them. I was aware of that. I did not know that upwards of 80% of Black women will have fibroids by age 50. I did not know there's literally like no research to give us a pill to make them go away. You have to have a surgery of some type. Now, thankfully, there are less invasive surgeries now, but even 6 years ago when I'm researching, I think it was like Acessa was like maybe going to be on the market. It was still kind of being piloted. Like some of the less invasive ones weren't even like really happening everywhere. You could hardly find a doctor. So I'm just sitting there, slow burning, like what in the world? And then to find out that globally, Black women are the #1 demographic for hysterectomies around this whole world. There has to be a better solution. So you don't want to ask me that question because I just stayed. It would not, the burning would not go away. I'm like, we have to say this louder because obviously the powers that be are unaware that we need funding to help us. Like, why don't we have a pill to fix this? Why hasn't there been some research to say, okay, don't eat soy, which my gynecologist had taken me off soy years ago, so I knew that, but so many people didn't know that, and I didn't know the other list of things that I also should not be putting into or onto my body.
My
I
body.
didn't know it was an environmental issue. Like some of the lotions we use are estrogen inhibitors. Where are we supposed to learn this stuff? So you can't just, girl, I'm like, let me just get me some cocoa butter and call it a day, because I can't even read all these ingredients and know whether or not it's harming me. And just throwing off like it's a endocrine receptors, like throwing those off. I didn't know any of this. I am not a science person. I never did a day in med school. And I'm like, was there a commercial that was supposed to say, be careful of what you're putting on your
Listen,
skin, your largest organ. Be careful what you're putting in your hair.
in
Like,
your hair. After
who knew?
society has told you that your hair isn't good enough as a Black person. And that's why, first of all, yes, all of that, yes. And that's what made it so infuriating. And I love that you were proactive about, let me alter, as I'm learning, let me alter. Let me change what I'm putting on my body. Let me change what I'm
Mhm.
putting on in my hair. Let me change what I'm putting on my skin. Because there is no commercial that says, hey, did you know because that would disrupt the capitalist society that we're in. And when you look at it as Black people, so much of who we are has been policed and formulated to condition us that then we end up harming ourselves. The other thing you mentioned was how nutrition plays into it. And I posted a few weeks ago, the community that I'm in, I'm on the south side of Chicago. This is a house I grew up in. And living here, I realized that we're in a food desert. We're in a food desert. We're in a pharmacy desert. We're in a mail desert. The mail may not run for a couple of days. And so when I look at that, it's frustrating because then if you did want to eat healthy, how are you going to get it? Because the grocery store, where are you going to go? And so that's when it really started to feel like, oh, this is by design, that we are not given the information that we need. We're also not able to access the supports that we need. And we're also not told, hey, some of the things that you're already doing, you need to change. So I saw Camille mention, like, when it comes to like hair and things like that, what did you learn anything about like what we should be doing in terms of our skin, in terms of our hair, or what we're ingesting? I know you mentioned soy.
Yeah, so basic things, and that was a part of the documentary where we brought in a holistic physician and we went to a farm to look at what you can have. Like Swiss chard is one of the things you can have, but sunflower seeds, which we all know is the hood treat of choice, they come in ranch, barbecue, all of the things. We're not even supposed to have that. So then when you break it down, like sunflower oil is not good for us. It helps grow your fibroids. Now, go in your kitchen and look at your products. Even if you think you bought something healthy, there's something called soy lecithin or lecithin.
Yeah.
I probably am saying it wrong. It's in everything I had in my house, and it's still in some stuff because it's so hard to find products without it. So I'm like, y'all want to kill us because why is it every single thing? And you're now telling me I'm coming to this realization at 40 something that I shouldn't have this, and this in almost every product in my house, because it doesn't matter if it's a healthy product. You can, like, I came off milk because milk was one of the things that my gynecologist had taken me off of because it was also contributing to fibroids. So I moved to soy milk. That was the first time I realized that this was a problem because it made me have 2 cycles a month for that window and that excruciating cramps. I go into the doctor. She's like, well, what did you change in your diet? I was like, oh, remember we took me off of whole milk. I'm on soy milk. So that was when I knew about soy milk. So when you switch to almond milk, coconut milk, any of the nut milks, read it. That soy lecithin thing is still in there.
It's still there.
So one of the things that I kept reading, and you know, when we look, I'm not a super holistic person, like I'm not wired in that way, but finding out more information, what makes sense to me, it was like an ice cream commercial. It said, if it has more than 3 ingredients and you can't pronounce them, just handle with care because it's probably something in there that might not be so good for you. So I switched to, cocoa butter. That is coconut oil because I can read and pronounce coconut oil. There's nothing else in there. The shea butter is really hard, so you just got to be careful how it's like hard to use if it hasn't been mixed with something. So find a vendor you like. We have a farmers market here in Atlanta where they have a lot of products, and the products only have like a few names on a few items, so that felt safer to me. So everything isn't switched over, but that switched over. And even with tampons and pads, I had no idea, like, there are lots of chemicals and bleach and stuff in your tampons. I didn't know. So then I shifted to it's a Black owned company in Atlanta that's escaping me right now, but it's in all the things. Honey Pot.
Yeah.
So Honey Pot, it's got that soothing menthol on the little on the pads and on your panty liners, and they don't have a lot of ingredients like bleach listed either. So it's little things. You don't have to go and like sweep through your whole house and throw everything away immediately, but if you're just mindful of little steps every month, try to remember to pick up a different maxi pad, a one that's not gonna harm you, and put bleach inside your body. So just things like that.
Yeah, and being intentional when we can. And it's also a each one teach one kind of thing, and a support each other as a community. You know, if you know you going to Target and you see honey pot is on sale, grab a couple, give one to your friend, give one to your sister, give one to your niece. Start them off in a
Mm-hmm.
different way so that they don't, feel like, well, I can't afford that. I can't do that. I see somebody just mentioned what about more affordable options? Because speaking about it from the nutrition standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find healthy food. Like I said, I'm in a food desert. So trying to find healthy food, I think when it comes to that, you really just have to look at the labels. Where you have access, look at your labels, and then
Yeah.
research, do a quick Google about if there is a farmer's market or if there is any kind of produce giveaway. I know there's also like, those sites that they sell the produce that didn't look so great. And
Mm-hmm.
so you could get a subscription
It's
box
called
of that
misfits.
that's a little bit cheaper. Yeah, but like we got to help each other. When you go to
You
the
can
store,
also, if you're at like Kroger or probably other grocery stores too, but at least I know Kroger. They have it's called like Simply Truth. That's their brand of stuff that like it has minimum salt, minimal ingredients. You're gonna have to flavor it up yourself because it has nothing. But it's just they put a green. It's like a green circle with the word Simply Truth. That's the brand. That's the Kroger like healthy brand. And really, you can get much of that. It's the prices are about the same as regular. Like if you get turkey patties, it has like turkey and water. So you're gonna need to paprika it up or something.
yeah,
But it still isn't, super expensive. Just make sure you have your seasonings.
yeah, yeah. I think, because we could talk about this part all day. But one of the things that you also mentioned was about trying to keep yourself calm while you were researching and getting all that information, and how overwhelming that can be, because it is. It's infuriating. For me, the tipping point when I was first researching was just that I couldn't find that many Black women talking about this, and that I remembered every movie, every plot point, everything that told me that this was not going to be an issue. I remember Claudine. I remember The Women of Brewster Place. I remember The Color Purple. I remember
Mm,
everything that said this ain't a Black girl thing. But then what really brought me to tears was Henrietta Lacks, and learning about Henrietta Lacks, and learning about all of those other things. So I know you said you kind of just kept your head down and focused on the journey, but like
yeah,
what other things did you do to kind of keep yourself centered? Because social justice is hard. Social justice work is hard. It's draining on you. So how did you didn't know it
exhausted.
was gonna get picked up by OWN at that point.
I did not. All I had was a hope and a prayer and a vision board. So I had to put some boundaries in place. So on my Facebook, I opened a Eggs Over Easy Facebook page, and then for Instagram, I did the Eggs Over Easy Instagram so that I can turn it off. So I will only come on for like 15 minutes a day because it's triggering, and there's so much that you just can't do anything about. So if you watch the film, there's a clip from Charles Johnson. His wife's name is Kira. Kira died in childbirth. Healthy, climbing mountains, a pilot. She shouldn't have died. So that was happening around the same time. And then one of my beloved Neos is their cousin. So I was just seeing this story, which wasn't that many degrees of separation
Yeah,
away. And I kept seeing it, and then more stories like it. And I was like, well, is it going to stop? Will these stories stop? They don't stop. That was just the one that was 1 degree of separation from me, but the stories did not stop. So I had to put a cap on how much I could even process because it was so much. Right now, there's a documentary. It just got picked up. It went to Sundance. It just got picked up by Hulu, I think, by Hulu and the ABC Family. I forget the name of it, but Spike Lee's wife is she's the co-director and
mm,
co-producer on it. And it features this woman named Shawnee who I'd met on one of these chats, like the Deltas of New York did a panel and I was on it. She was on it. Wonderful woman. Her daughter died in childbirth, and she has spent the last basically 5 years just trying to champion laws to make sure that the maternal mortality rate isn't 243%. That Black women aren't more than 2 times more likely to
Yeah.
die in childbirth. So, like, that kind of information, even though I want to know it and try to figure out how we can help, it's still like, oh my God, how is this
Yeah.
still happening? And I think this movie, I'm not sure when it'll come out, but it follows three families. So there's so much every single time I log on to this page. There are some testimonies and there is hope, but you just have to dig through it. So I just gave myself a cap. It's 15 minutes. That's all I can do on here, and that's what it is,
Yeah.
mainly because once people knew I was working on this project, they felt comfortable, and I'm grateful they felt comfortable, and they needed an outlet, which is why we now have a private community on Facebook, so they can talk amongst themselves, and I don't have to be like the only person trying to help find
Yeah.
answers and that sort
Pouring
of
all
thing.
of that into you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been a couple of things that I've been strategic about, just to make sure that I am not depleted at the end of the day and can
Yeah.
still have energy to do this work, because it's not going anywhere. This is the work.
This is the work. This is the work. And it's not the work we chose. It's the work that kind of
I
chose
know.
us.
Did not choose. Did
Did not
not
choose,
choose.
would not choose.
No, I have
Didn't even
fun
know.
jobs. So I'm like, no, how did I even get here? Although I'm honored that God would even say, this is what you're doing right now. But my jobs are normally fun. I produce live events, concerts, gospel recordings, and it's a lot of work, but it's happy work. It's about the gospel, of Jesus. So that's the years, 20 years of doing that. And so now we're here. So I just have to manage my emotions, because I also get mad like quickly. So when I see some of these stories, like a mother who does all the things to make sure her daughter lives, that was a story here in Atlanta that was in the news cycle for a couple of weeks. The mom did everything as an advocate, and it
Yeah.
didn't matter. And her daughter had a PhD and worked at the CDC, and none
Yep.
of it mattered because she still lost her life. So that just is so, like, I just get so mad. I can't figure out why this is happening when you could literally send these women home with a blood pressure cuff. And that's something that Jesse Thompson is working on right now, like just finding blood pressure cuffs to send women home with, whether they have like high blood pressure or whether it's like postpartum. If we're saying women are going home and stroking out because they think they have a headache, their doctor thinks they have a headache, give them Tylenol, but they actually are having strokes. What is the problem? Like, why can't we just do this one simple thing? So
It's a
when they send you
simple
home,
thing.
it's so
It's a
simple. When they
simple
send them
thing.
home with the baby bag with the Pampers and stuff, can we
Just
just
put
drop
it
it
in
in
there.
there?
How about I didn't know? So I didn't even know that you could, and I feel ridiculous saying it. But again, it's by design that we don't know some of these things. I didn't even know that you could have a blood pressure cuff that was just yours. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that, you know? And so when I finally got one, I was like, I could have had this years ago. This could have been,
Yep,
and you really get frustrated at how simple some of these fixes are.
it's
And I
$20.
love that you point. Yeah,
$20.
I love that you pointed that out, that some of these things are simple fixes. This is not, you don't have to reinvent the wheel or, climb to the top of the mountain. Some of this is basic information, advocacy, simple additions to what we are already doing that can help. And I think one of the other things, because I know Camille, and I know that one of her big things is action. She don't let no grass grow under her feet about anything.
None.
And so as we talk about these things, I know one of the big things that she would want to know is what can people do? We know this is going on. We know that Black women are affected at such disproportionate rates by everything. And that this is justice. This is not just health. It's health equity, it's social justice, it's reproductive justice. What are some
Layers.
things that people can do? Maybe they don't want, maybe they can't, do a film, or they don't really want to be an advocate to this level. But what are some things that people could just do to support this movement or to feel more empowered themselves?
So we did a soft launch on our initiative. It's called the Ask Early campaign, because one of my line sisters kept saying, well, Quita, I don't ever want to have kids, but how can I be engaged? Or if somebody is 50 something and they are worried about their daughters or their nieces or their mentors, like mentees, what can we actually, literally, what is the takeaway? So we came up with the Ask Early campaign. We want to make sure that young women have the language to ask their doctors the questions that they need to have answered. So for me, I was 40 something when I realized I should not have been in bed the first day of my period every month for my whole life. They shouldn't have cramped that much. Like
Yeah.
that's not normal. But I didn't know because all my friends were in bed the first day of their period because they
Yeah.
had really bad cramps too. So if I had known to ask early, instead of saying, "Can you give me a naproxen so that I cannot be cramping and I can go to school," I would have said, "Can you check to find out why I am having debilitating cramps to the point that I can't get out of bed for one day every month. I'm losing a day a month. That's 12 days a year. Multiply that by my life. I have lost months, so much time
Listen,
just in
my
the bed."
cousin, I talked to about this. She's older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And when she talked about how she's productive, she's so productive. And she said, I learned to be productive because when my endometriosis would flare up, that told me I only got 5 days this month that I can get things done. So I taught myself to speed through getting things done because I knew endo would knock me out. And the fact that that just was internalized is crazy to me. So when you mention, you know, the fact that we should be able to ask, hey, this ain't supposed to be like this. What
Mm-hmm.
can you look into this, please? And being okay with asking.
So we have to teach them the language to ask. If you're 25, and this is my opinion, and it needs to be in every book for every med school and med student. If you are 25, I feel like we should have a baseline on our AMH, the anti-malarial hormone, because you're gonna turn 30, Lord willing, and you're still here. When you're 30, you're gonna want to check back in, because if you drop from 10 to 1
Yep.
in that short span of time, if children is something on your to-do list, you're going to either need to freeze your eggs or switch some stuff around so that you can, instead of doing all the trips and all the career stuff, if you want to have kids and you're watching this number and you have a baseline from when you're like 25, you will know how to plan your life accordingly. So it's not like, oh, I got to jump out and freeze my eggs, or oh, I got to save $20,000 for IVF or whatever. It's, oh, I need to be informed so that I can make informed decisions
Yeah.
about my health and my body. So that's the first part of Ask Early. The second part is for doctors to ask their patients early. My physician's amazing, and she asked me this question at 41, not 31. When I actually probably had very high numbers, this wasn't a question. She did not ask me because she's malicious or anything like that. It's not something that they are taught. So doctors need to ask patients early, hey, I'm not going to just ask you what type of birth control pill you want. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you, do you, because you know you get that question, do you want an HIV test, HPV test, all your STDs, and birth control? Add one more. Do you have plans to ever have children within the next 15 years? If so, we need to have another conversation so that you have information and you can do what you want. Now, I have had some doctors to say, well, the insurance won't pay for this extra 20-minute lecture. You got to find
Yep.
it yourself. There's no place to find it
Where
yourself.
am I
There's
supposed to
no
find that?
need. Where do we go to find it? So that's the second part. And then the third part, which is the biggest, I think, change that can happen, that's on an institutional level. So that in schools, this becomes something that is taught. Like, ask your patients, particularly these black ones, and also treat them like you treat your white patients, so they won't be dying in labor at almost 2.5 times the rate of a white woman. It sounds basic because it really is probably just a 2 sentences that you can add to whatever the curriculum is, to the books, but it's life-saving, it's life-changing.
Literal.
So ask
Literally.
early, just ask early. Those are the 3
Literally.
ways that no matter where you are on the spectrum of fertility or the conversation of fertility and reproductive justice, start in one of those three pockets, and we would
Yeah.
all be better off for it.
Yes. It is. Y'all see why I'm so excited? It is literally life saving. And life or death, but also our quality of life. So many people of color have the weight of the world on them all the time. And then when you add on pandemic and you add on social unrest and then you add on infertility and reproductive health issues, it becomes really about the quality of life of a person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you don't know how impactful this is on somebody's life until you find out, oh, I didn't know they were depressed. I didn't know they were, and we don't want to get to that. We don't want to get to that point. But so many Black women that I speak to, the mental health part of it is another area that it's overlapped with the social and reproductive justice part, because when you're dealing with a society that says that Black lives don't matter, while you're trying to create Black life, the mind screw of that is insane. And I love what you said about making the schools think about it differently, because we know they're not taught. We still have medical students still saying that Black people experience pain differently. So, pen, a pad, a plan. That's why I tell people when you go to the doctor, take a pen and a pad and a plan.
Yes.
Ask questions. Ask questions.
Ask all the questions.
Yeah, there's no stupid question at all. There's no stupid question at all. I know these coffee with Canes are supposed to be short.
Well, I just wanted to say this, and because are we at time? That was quick. For the mental health part,
we're gonna have to do a part 2.
No, for the mental health part, and the reason that I actually included a licensed therapist in the documentary is because not only are we dealing with a culture where, you know, Black lives don't really seem to matter, but historically, this is like a 400-year problem. So because we're like, oh, Black women are for the murder, or you're not going to have any issues like the movies you've watched, that does something to your psyche. And that is why whatever your journey is, if your journey is to be child-free by choice, if your journey is to go through IVF, adoption, surrogacy, you're going to need a mental health provider to kind of just walk you through it and help you deal with your emotions, because we aren't really talking about just what's happened from June 2020 to now. We're talking about 400 years of what has happened.
Come on. And the fact that our fertility was, you know, the cog of the wheel that kept things running. I found recently, I posted it a few months ago, I found my aunt has paperwork from a will of a white man in Louisiana that included some of my ancestors on it. And you can see how much people were valued and just the heartbreak of that, and seeing literally right there in black and white, young Black women priced higher, young Black women with children priced higher. It really makes it where when I first started the Broken Brown Egg, I got a lot of people that commented that were like, why has it got to be about Black people? Don't we all experience infertility? Isn't it tough on all of us? And don't we all? Yeah. Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be? And it's like, because it has to be. Because when you look at these parts of it, you can't deny exactly what Chiquita just said. This is not just, oh, we're making noise about this right now because this is a new thing we're dealing with. No, this is something that generationally has passed down and continue to affect us.
I looked at some of the transactions from slavery. So one of the documentaries, one of my early documentaries that I produced, was Kunta Kinte Island, Coming Home with Shackles, and it was on PBS. We went to the Gambia, which is where Kunta Kinte is from, and Senegal to the slave house. Even as far back as then, when you look at the rooms, the men were held in like these awful, well, it was all awful conditions, but they were in like a really tiny place. The mothers were in like a slightly bigger place. The girls who were of childbearing age were in more comfortable place, although it still is awful, more comfortable place. And then when they were fed like bread with butter to fatten them up and keep them healthy to have children. And then the ones who had not been producing kids, or for whatever reason, or the ones who were older, like the grandmas, they just got the regular bread and water, they don't need to be fattened up. And then you follow that to the actual registry where they were sold. There's a pattern. So if you were childbearing age, the same way you got bread and butter, you were sold for more money. There was more worth
Yep.
attached to the women who could have children
Yep.
versus women who could not. And that didn't go anywhere. And that
Yep.
is what we're still like battling now. And that is why it's hard for a woman who either by choice or just by life is child free to even tell her mama or to tell her aunties that she's not able to or does not want to have children, because we're dealing with worth, which came over with us on slave ships. Like, how you need a mental health person,
You
trust.
have to. You have to dig through it because it's layers to this. It's layers to this. That's from the slave ship to here. That's from the slave ship to here. And in writing my book, I was continuing to research and I found, if you were partnered with somebody, because we weren't legally allowed to get married,
Right.
but if you were partnered with somebody on the plantation or wherever you were working, and you had not gotten pregnant by 20, they could
It's
pair you with somebody else,
Yep.
regardless of whatever, nothing was yours and nothing was yours. And that equation, that adding it up to your worth part is just, we're going to have
It's
to do
so
a part
sad
two.
and it's
It's,
so infuriating, but
it's so sad. And it's built in, and it makes it where it's even so hard for us when we realize that there's an issue to accept that there's an issue, because we're like, wait a minute, wait now. But what does that say about me? What does that say about who
Mhm.
I am, where I stand, where I belong in my faith, where I belong in my family, where I belong in my culture, where I belong in my everything? It's such a identity shift and quality of life attack, um, that it is mind boggling. And I'm just so grateful to have, um, people like you who are willing to be out here talking, because the conversation has to be had. That's the only way we're going to change any of this and make others feel empowered. And I'm just honored to be in your company and in company of other great people like Camille, like Stacy. I see Monique, I see Tanika, I see all of these amazing advocates that are out here just being like, you know what, if somebody got to say it, I'm going to say it.
Hey, Tanika.
If
I
somebody,
couldn't I didn't want to touch anything on the screen because I didn't want it to go off. So I'm just seeing the names. Hey,
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. She put you up some red pyramids.
Hey, Sarah.
I saw her in there. This was amazing. I want to ask, what's in your cup? I'm seeing this really cute mug.
Yes, water is in my cup. Water is in my cup because I'm dehydrated, if you can tell or not. Sis needs some water. I had to I was in
Same.
LA all last week and the jet lag, I was fine out there, and when I came back I cannot get my schedule back. I am so sleepy, tired, and
It, it
needing
don't look
water.
it.
This should have low key been whiskey, but it's water.
Well, you don't look tired at all. Let me tell you. You don't
Thank
look tired
you.
at all. You pulled it together, sis.
On a wing and a
Um,
prayer.
my
Let me see
mug
your
is
mug. Hold it up.
actually from the Moms of M Foundation,
Hmm.
and it says, I support MOM, Moms of Miscarriage. And I also have water to fight the dehydration that's happening under this foundation. So,
Listen,
girl, sis,
it's
this was
real.
so much fun. Thank you so, so much for
Thank you for having.
everything.
I knew this was gonna be fun. That's why I was like, let me pull myself together,
Yeah,
child.
girl. Listen.
So thank you, Regina.
Oh, thank you so much for everything you're doing, everything you're going to do, because I don't believe that that film is the end of what you're going to be tapped to provide to this community and beyond, because you're a wealth of information. And that warms my librarian heart, that warms my advocate heart, and I cannot imagine somebody not tapping you to be like, okay, so let's do this male factor one.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
glad you mentioned that. So on the
Yeah.
22nd, if you guys have time, come through on Instagram Live on the 22nd. We're gonna talk male factor, not just the male factor infertility, but also just from the point of view of males. Because surprise, surprise to me, they weren't the target market. But that's who's been in my DM. So all these women are like, oh
Yep.
my God, my husband sat down, he watched the whole thing, and we're having conversations because he understands it better. And then Tario, Charmaine's husband, the lead couple who we follow in the film, is getting just inundated with questions like, okay, then what? And it's from men. So he's gonna
Yeah.
come on with me. Dr. Denise is coming on with me. A few years ago, one of my Morehouse brothers stopped me at homecoming. I was doing a Kickstarter, so this was 2017, and I had on a little Kickstarter help me pay for my film t-shirt. And he's like, oh, my wife and I went through it, and I got something to say. And he had a lot, like, he was very talkative. So Joey's gonna be on with us too. And
Come on, I got
then
something to say.
TJ Payton, if you know, well, you know TJ. So
Yeah.
she wrote a book called Semen Secrets.
Yeah.
Because her husband ended up, although she initially thought that she had female factor infertility, it actually was male factor in their relationship, in their marriage. It was male factor. So she wrote a book about it, and that book was so juicy. I read that book in one sitting.
Yeah,
Like, I
we're
had
doing
met
a
her on a
giveaway right
panel.
now. We're doing a giveaway.
Listen,
If anybody wants a
get
copy,
the book. You like
she and I are doing a giveaway right now. And Camille so generously threw in a copy of her book, The Good Book About Infertility. So if
I
you
have them
go to
all.
TJ
If I
Payton,
turn my if I
it,
could turn my computer
you
around,
should
which I
be
won't
able to.
because it's junky. But I have all of those books like right
Yeah.
beside me, because every time I'm doing a panel, like yours is on the top. Make it make sense. Like, I have them all, so I could just pick them up real
Oh,
quick.
thank you, sis. Well, yeah, if we're doing for Black History Month, we're doing what we're called Black Her Story book giveaway, and we're giving away a copy of Semen Secrets, a copy of Make If
Yeah,
Make Sense, and a copy of The Good Book About Infertility. And the winner will also get to choose a Black woman written book from my book list that I keep on the Broken Brown Egg. So if you are interested, head over to my page, head over to TJ Payton's page, and just all you have to do is comment and like it, and you're entered automatically. And even if you don't need the books, get a
yeah.
enter anyway, because somebody else does. Even if you don't need this information, I used to tell people 7.3 million people affected by infertility means somebody that you know. It's somebody that you know, whether they ever
Mhm.
say it or not. So join, enter, do whatever. Follow these accounts. There's great people right here in the chat. Go to either of our pages and follow who we follow, because you will find an amazing community of support. Chiquita, thank you so much, sis.
You. This has been
Thank
my
you so
pleasure.
much.
And
Oh,
thanks,
this was
Cade Foundation.
amazing. Thank you, Cade Foundation. Thanks, Camille, for trusting me with your baby, your fourth baby. And we will see you next time. Hopefully, we'll
Bye,
find our way to
everybody.
do a number two.
Yes, let's do that. Bye, guys.
Bye.